Regular meeting number 45 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Our God, we're grateful this evening for the presence of our mayor and the former members of Columbus City Council who've come together this evening for this wonderful reunion. We're grateful for the gift that they have given not only on council but in their lives and in their public lives. Help us to appreciate always what they have given to us. At the same time, this City Council comes together after their August recess to take up once again the business of our city. This evening marks the evening before our 11th annual remembrance of the tragedy of 9/11/2001. Even as we pray tonight, we are aware, Lord, of continuing war and terrorism in our world. We also know that the hatred that exists between people that you have called into existence is contrary to your plan for us. We ask you, Lord, to give all people the wisdom to realize that we're all brothers and sisters, regardless of our differences, and also your sons and daughters. May the divisions that exist among us dissolve under the warmth of your love for all of us, that we can seek reconciliation through truth and patience and see the common bonds that unite us as fellow human persons. We ask for your gift of peace, O Lord, which the world itself cannot give. May we always be open to the promptings of your Spirit, who can, with our cooperation, turn our stony hearts into loving hearts. As Council meets this evening, we remember all the victims of 9/11, those who died on that day and after, as well as the family and friends of these and of all of us who are still overcome with the shock of what happened on that tragic day. President Lincoln prayed that the better angels of our natures would prompt people to a more loving response to one another. This evening, our City Council members stand before you as testimony to their reliance on your wisdom and guidance. May they be wise and productive this evening and always, and seek always the best for the citizens of our great city. Amen.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
So moved.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Clerk Blevins. In the interest of recognizing some outstanding women and men who have already given up far many and much of their Monday nights throughout the years, we're going to have a recognition of these outstanding former council members coming at this point in the agenda. I do take a moment to recognize these guests, particularly in the context of this very special year, Columbus's bicentennial. The year has been filled with many activities, neighborhood events, and celebrations. As a city, we have used the opportunity stock of where we are today and where we are going, and to use this year to chart a path for our collective future. Begin with writing the story of Columbus's next 100 years. That said, you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. The bicentennial has also offered us the opportunity to reflect on our past, honor and to recognize all those who gave of themselves to make Columbus the great city it is today. This includes past members of this body who, as council members, helped to craft the policies that have positioned Columbus so well. This evening, we are happy to welcome to council chambers past members of Columbus City Council. At this time, I would ask that each of the former council members come forward to be recognized, and as you're making your way up to the podium, if you could allow the Honorable Fran Ryan the opportunity to step to the microphone, the organizer of this afternoon's reunion. And Fran, welcome back to council chambers. Thank you so much for coming tonight and bringing this group together. And would you mind saying a few words, and if the other council members could come forward and be recognized, that would be great.
Thank you, and it's been a great pleasure. It's been just wonderful, and they're so excited to see each other. I remember sitting in the mayor's office and saying, "I think we should get everybody together," and he said, "Do it." Pointed to me. So I thank you and the mayor for your cooperation, and particularly the city clerk's office, who have really done an outstanding job in the decoration of the room and all of the organizing of the pictures. It's been a really, really great pleasure. So let's see. Do we have everybody in attention? Do we? We've gotten some notes from some folks, and I'd just like to take a minute to think about those who have passed, and we've lost some good friends. So let's just take a minute and just take a moment of silence and say a prayer for them. I'm going to begin to introduce, I'm not going to do it by age. Maybe I could. I'm not going to do that, but of service. I'd like to introduce Bob Van Hyde, who was the youngest member ever elected to City Council. He was a law student at Ohio State and came all the way from Florida, so thank you so much, Bob. Jim Bauman, I think, was before my time, and also ran for Congress and was a state rep, and so we thank you for being here and enjoying our wonderful council. We heard from Cindy Lazarus, who could not make it this evening. Arlene Shoemaker is with us. Arlene served and served well, and we were just really pleased that she could be here tonight. So Arlene, thank you so much. Dan Schedinger served with me, so now you know how old he is. No, he was younger. He was younger, and we were the mod squad. Okay, we got into lots of trouble, but Dan, thank you for being here, and I've enjoyed my association with you. Where's Dorothy? Dorothy, where are you? There's Dorothy Teeter, who served a good time in the chain and has done a marvelous amount of work. Thank you very much for your service. David Kane, who was a reporter at the paper and covered some of We Young Ones when a lot of nights. He is really a Monday nighter, okay? Thank you, David. And David's a judge now. Ben Espy, who served at the time when I was city clerk, and we've enjoyed the relationship, and some of us go back a long time. So, Ben, thank you for being here. Pam is not wearing the colors of Michigan, but she is now from Michigan, but she's down here with us today. And Pam Conrad served on this council, so we're really pleased to have her here. And I think Jeanette Bradley is here. Jeanette, where are you? Okay, you're here. And Jeanette served here, and we're so proud to have you here. Thank you so much. And standing next to her is Les Wright. Les served graciously and was a really good friend of our good friend Jerry Hammond. And so, Mr. Mennel is behind me. Mr. Mennel, who served as council president, is here, and welcome him back. Thank you so much. We also have Patsy. Where's Patsy? Patsy? Patsy's here. Patsy served on council, I think, after I had left, and you were here after my time. So thank you very much for your service. And we also have Fred Ranzier. Fred served on council. We Senator Charlita Taveras, who is here, and we thank her. Representing the O'Shaughnessy family is Jerry. Jerry, where are you? Back there. Stand up. Jerry's his uncle and Mary Ellen. Let's see, Kevin called and couldn't hear, but we called of everybody. There's one person that I left a message for in Westerville, and I think that Judge Shoemaker has got to be about 87. At least I think I had the right guy. And I Googled him. I Googled all by myself. And Mary Jo Hutton is in France, and she called me and said to say hello to everybody. So there you got the whole picture. Oh, dude, I forgot. Oh, Carol, where's Carolyn? Oh, Carolyn, I'm sorry. I've got Carolyn Petrie. You know, we lost Chuck. Carolyn, Chuck, I got to speak at Chuck's funeral for a little bit because Carolyn asked me, and Chuck and I were very, very good friends and spent a lot of time at Ohio State together, too. So, Carolyn, I'm so glad you could be with us, and we have great memories of Chuck. You know that. And there's great pictures down there and a wonderful cake, and we're going to go down and party a little bit while you all were.
Well, you certainly have earned that right, but I want to give a former council member, a former council president, a special guest in council this evening to make a few remarks, as well as other council members. But before we do, Fran, I want to recognize you because this happened because of you. And as I walked in the room earlier, I said, what person could bring together people from all different walks of life and perspectives and political thought? Fran Ryan. And so, Fran, thank you for everything you do for Columbus. We appreciate that. Yeah, and some outstanding staff, the clerk's office, and folks on the mayor's staff and council staff. We appreciate it. But I got to give a former council member an opportunity to say a few words, a very special guest, former council president, Mayor Michael Coleman.
All right. You know, it's great to see all of you. I, too, am a former member of council, and we have this special bond between us. It's the council club. There's only a few people a part of it. And I think I have a story about each and every one of you, at least one or two, some that are here and some that aren't here. And I'm often asked my most memorable moments. One was when I worked for Ben Espy. I was his legislative assistant way back in the 80s. That was a long time ago. And there was a riot in city council chambers, remember, with and Maury Portman charged the crowd. Remember that? He's sitting right here as president, and they were saying some things he didn't like. Remember, Ben? Judge, you remember that? You were there? Dorothy, were you there? Actually, it was Jeff Cabot back there. Jeff Cabot grabbed Maury Portman from the back. You know, Maury's a little guy, and it was a whole crowd of people, and he charged the crowd. And Jeff Cabot, remember that, Jeff? Grabbed Maury Portman and held him back from putting damage to those 100 people that were in the crowd. He was very upset that night. Yeah, another Monday night back in the good old days. You remember that, Ben? And then the other night was actually my first night as a member of council, the very first night. Ben went on to become a state senator, where he served honorably for many years. And I sat in his seat, and I sat right where Troy Miller's sitting right now, in his seat right there. And that night we had a march on City Hall, that first night. And it was about 500 people in this room, another 1,000 in the hallway, and maybe another 1,000 or so. Remember, Les, out on the plaza. And I said, man, my first day. What a day. But it's great to have all of you here. This is our 200th year anniversary, our bicentennial, and to bring all of you great people together and see how you've helped make the city a better place because of your service. We're grateful for all of you, and thank you so much for all your service.
And before you leave for cake, I want to make sure, I want to offer Mr. Dorian or City Attorney Pfeiffer the opportunity to make any comments, and my colleagues on council. So bear with us for just a minute or two. I know you're not used to working Monday nights anymore. So, Mr. Dorian.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. When I look at this illustrious group, I think I have served alongside of everyone except one. Bob, you preceded me and were out of here before I got here. But I will tell you candidly and seriously, I feel a great deal of pride to serve with each one of you. And I thank you all for making me a better person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that Mike Meadows' absence from here makes these meetings shorter.
Too, Rick. The relationship between a client and his lawyer, right? Councilmember Craig, any comments?
I just want to echo the mayor's comments in many ways. Many of you I know personally, and Jeanette, as you know, your father and I went to church together for many, many years, and certainly Les and many of you. I want to say personally how much I appreciate. We know right now that we're standing on the shoulders of work, and so we're deeply grateful for your contribution to the city of Columbus and this nation. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Comments from other council members? Councilmember Klein?
Just to echo what President Ginther said in talking about remembering where you came from, and I look at the great city that we live in now, and it's in significant part due to all of the work and hard work and late nights that each and every one of you have put forward on Monday nights and in the community, and the contributions that you each have made to get Columbus to really one of the greatest cities in the United States. And so I thank you for the work that you did so that I have the opportunity to serve and to carry the torch forward. So thank you.
Thank you for coming today. I'm really pleased to meet many of you for the first time. I'm honored to be part of the club, and I'm very also honored to have my name besides yours in the future. Thank you.
There's an old saying, if these walls could talk, right? But if these walls could talk, I certainly would listen, because the contributions that you all have made are making me the council member that I can be now and in the future. And so I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. And if you ever want to talk, I'm here to listen, because I know that there's a lot that I could learn from each and every one of you, and particularly those of you who may have chaired the safety committee would love to talk to you. So thank you all for coming down, and it's good to see you, and what a blessing.
Jeanette Bradley, didn't you chair the safety committee? You chaired it? And who else chaired the safety committee out there? Mike Miller, sure did. Sure did. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
I not only want to thank you for what you've done for this in the past, most of you, I want to thank you for what you've made me, because without your teachings and being my mentor, I certainly wouldn't be sitting in this chair. I've learned so much from most of you that I really appreciate that, and I only hope that I can carry on what you've done in City Hall as well as you did. So thank you so much.
Thank you, President Ginther. As this is our bicentennial year, and we're 200 years old, and if you think about those of you who are standing in front of us today, you are the individuals that have allowed us to be here to do this work, to celebrate our 200th anniversary. The policies that you all enacted here in City Council chambers have allowed our city to be what it is today. I think about what the Iroquois Indians would always say, is that think about every decision that you make, how it affects the next 7 generations. And the work that each of you have done in this community will have affected many generations and will affect, of course, 7 generations. So I thank you for your work. I stand on your shoulders. We are a legacy, and the city is your legacy. So when you think about your lives, each of us is put on this earth to make a difference, And so as you reflect upon your life, besides your family and maybe your church, you think about the legacy that you have made to this community. No one can ever take that away from you. We honor you, and I personally thank you for being the people that you are and making me a better council person. I stand on your shoulders, and for making Columbus the great place that it is for the future generations. Thank you so very, very much.
And I just, as you all get ready to leave and go enjoy some cake and conversation, I want to recognize not just you for your service, but I'm going to lead recognition of your families, of Dr. Teeter, of Mrs. Espy, of your loved ones, of your family members that gave so much to allow you to serve and make a difference in this community. So thank you so much for being here tonight. We're very proud to have you as leaders who have helped to make Columbus what we are today. Thank you. Mr. Mennel will try to drag it out this evening and make the city attorney nervous. Thank you, sir. Thanks for indulging me for going out of order there, but as we said before, those folks have given us enough of their Monday nights, so get to enjoy that. Are there any members of council who have resolutions of expression or presentations this evening? Councilmember Craig.
Thank you very much, President Ginther. I don't have a resolution, but I did want to emphasize, I want to thank Monsignor Cody for his sterling, important remarks tonight regarding the anniversary of 9/11. We're going to commemorate the event tomorrow at City Hall. I think the event will start at 12 noon and will commence, I believe, around 1 o'clock. But it's important for our listening and viewing audience to know that those families stand evermost in our mind. And we deeply appreciate the service of our safety forces throughout all of those, throughout that very terrible, awful day. And so again, we're going to commemorate or have a remembrance of that event tomorrow, 12 noon at West Broad Street. Certainly for the first responders and certainly for all of those families that were impacted so horrifically regarding that day. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. President Pro Tem Miller. Councilmember Mills. Councilmember Paley.
Thank you, President Ginther. I have a resolution tonight. Will Mr. Jamie Green, who is heading up the 2012 inaugural IDS event, come to the podium? Also, will Ms. Shannon Morrison, Mr. Scott Enrig, and any other guests that are here for IDS? Or with I Am Creative. I Am Creative was selected by the 200 Columbus to be the event producer of unique programming for the IDS event. Tonight, we are offering a resolution to recognize and honor the IDS initiative IDS events will take place from September 28th through October 8th, 2012. Born out of the 200 Columbus, IDS is going to be an amazing 11-day series of events. These events will showcase Columbus as a leading city in the areas of innovation, knowledge, and ideas. These events will include the International Eco Summit, speakers, international workshops, a film festival, TEDx, all featuring Columbus as a knowledge center and an innovative destination. I want to give special thanks to Battelle, Honda, Cardinal Health, and Ohio Health, who were the original sponsors, but there are many other organizations involved, which Mr. Green will acknowledge in a moment. I will thank all of them as well when Mr. Green does do that. The resolution is 0163X 2012, and it reads as follows. Whereas IDS will take place this year from September 28th through October 8th, and whereas IDS is a celebration, collaboration, and incubation of ideas, innovation, and design in the city of Columbus. And IDS is a celebration and festival of ideas born out of 200 Columbus. The city of Columbus is rapidly becoming the Midwest Center for Free Thinking, and IDS helps us celebrate and spotlight this attribute. The IDS activities begin with the Mindship launch on September 28th at the Columbus College of Art and Design and end with the Creative Engines event at the Wexner Center for the Arts on October 8th. IDS will consist of 11 days of shows, conferences, and events to unleash the innovative spirit in all of us and to find better ways to turn that spirit into real productivity. Many Columbus businesses and organizations have financially helped IDS come together. The original sponsor of this innovation and thought celebration, again, are Battelle, Honda, Cardinal Health, and Ohio Health. So therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus that this council recognizes and honors the first IDS initiative and events taking place from September 28th to October 8th, 2012. I move for passage of the resolution.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Mr. Green, will you share with council any comments you have prepared for this occasion, as well as introduce the people that you've brought with you?
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Paley, for that recognition, and thank all of council for their support of the bicentennial work so far. We're into the 9th month of this intense effort, and a peak here in the next 18 days. I would like to thank the folks that are with me. You mentioned on my right and left are the leaders of I Am Creative, which seems kind of appropriate that they've been behind us very strongly in this. Scott Eyrig and Shannon Morrison. You mentioned a number of collaborators that have joined in this effort, and we have some of them here today from CCAD. We have Cynthia Gravino. We have John Doherty, who's putting on Film Festival from Vital Film Works. We have Jerry Denham from the Center for the Arts. And we have Michael Barngiorno and Sarah Barngiorno from the Design Week Initiative, which is, it wasn't just enough for them to do one thing to contribute. They're doing a whole week's worth of design and creativity in this community. It has been an extraordinary privilege of mine to help try to orchestrate what's going on. And the challenge here has really been to keep all the positive energy going. Any one of these collaborators, and there are several that are missing here tonight that couldn't be here. As I mentioned, we are 18 days away from kicking off. We've got folks from TEDx, from the Eco Summit, from MORPC Summit on Sustainability. We also have the Mini Makers Fair that Alex Bandar and the Idea Foundry is contributing programming. Any one of these groups could have gone off and done their own thing, shined a light on themselves, and really been pretty successful. But this group, when this idea came about doing something bold and ambitious for this community, decided they'd rather be part of something larger than doing something individually, which, in my experience, that is incredibly symbolic of where this community is today, of wanting to be together. Ideas is meant to be the opportunity to authentically showcase the talent that exists in this community. Many of you all know this is a relatively humble place. But we really have the goods to be prouder and more confident about what we've done, where we are, and where we can be going. And I think this group of people, in the spirit of where this is going really should give you all confidence about where we are. It's a terrific undertaking. The energy behind Baton Honda, Ohio Health, to want to make this significant is really palpable right now. This started out to be something we were just going to do as the third part of this year to really celebrate the but all of the momentum is around trying to create an event that endures. Some of you have made the trips, know about all, you know called South by Southwest and what it means to the image of that community. We're not trying to replicate that, but if you think about what that program means to the image and identity of that community, that is what we hope Ideas will be. Many of you are familiar with the smart and open branding work that's going on, collaborative work in this community. Ideas is meant to be the demonstration of that. We're lots of talking points out there and ad copy about smart and open. This is meant to be the place to live smart and open for 11 days in this community. And we really thank you for your support for the whole year, but also for Ideas and inviting us here tonight.
Any comment from other council members? Thank you, Mr. Green, and everyone involved for their hard work and support to make the IDS initiative and everything with it possible. I hope all of you can make it to these events. It is my desire to attend as many of the IDS events as possible in the 11-day period. They all look too exciting to me. The IDS events are a great example of how Columbus is such a great place to work, play, and raise a family. If you are interested in the IDS events, please go to www.idus.us and see all of the great events that are planned for the next coming weeks. For those of you who have not seen anything with regards to this project, I think everybody will be enlightened. It's going to be a really great 11 days of events, and I couldn't be happier with what you all have done to make that happen. So thank you again, and thank you.
Good, great. Thank you. Thank you.
That's all, President Ginther.
Thank you. Councilmember Tyson? Thank you. I do have one presentation this evening. I'd like to invite Todd Diefendorfer, who's the Chief Alignment Officer for the United Way of Central Ohio, to the podium. Welcome back to Council Chambers. As many of you know, Mr. Diefendorfer served as legislative aide to former Council President Matt Habash, and I wanted to bring Todd this evening to talk a little bit. Councilmember Craig and I were part of the United Way service kickoff at the Vineyard Columbus a week or two ago. That's right. And to kick off this push, partnership between the City of Columbus, the United Way, and the faith community, celebrating our bicentennial through community service and community service challenge that Todd's going to give us an update on. It culminates in the Community Cares Day, which is tomorrow. So we thought it was fitting to come tonight. And if there are folks that are watching or hearing of the work that's taking place throughout the community, we'd love to have them roll up their sleeves and join us in making a significant difference in a great year. Not a better way to celebrate a bicentennial year than rolling up your sleeves and making a difference in your neighborhood. So, Mr. Diefendorfer?
Definitely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I feel like having worked for Matt Habash for 5 years and representing him, I know he's not here tonight, so I feel like that job never quite ends. But no, we were very excited at United Way to have the opportunity to partner with the City of Columbus to put together the Columbus Volunteer Challenge. And just like the previous speaker noted with Ideas, this was something that came together with the Vineyard Columbus. They did a volunteer effort. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints did a volunteer effort. United Way did a volunteer effort. We all came together, bumped up our goal, really stretched a little bit, and to put together the Columbus Volunteer Challenge. And really thought, what better way to advance the bicentennial goals of a community that's more inspired, proud, and engaged than through volunteerism. So, we've come together, we set a goal. We started on August 25th with Council President Ginther and Councilmember Craig leading the way for us. Set a goal to have 20,000 people turn out and volunteer over an 18-day period. It's an ambitious thing. I don't think something that we've seen in this community, at least in recent history. And doing this, we wanted to obviously address immediate needs in the community, but also leave a lasting legacy of service. So connect so many more people with volunteerism and get them connected in the community. And we also wanted to lift up volunteerism, not your typical people come out on one day and paint a wall, but recognize people for their long-term commitment to volunteerism, get people to sign up for long-term activities like being a mentor, and also recognize there's people who help out their neighbor. Maybe they have an elderly neighbor who needs some help. Go over and help that individual out. So really take a broad view of this. And standing here on day 17 of the challenge, I'm very grateful for the response in the community. We'll announce our final number tomorrow, but I can say that during the course of the challenge, we've had 400 different volunteer projects. We've had over 200 nonprofit organizations with projects, and we have over 100 companies that have committed to putting volunteers out as part of this. So it's definitely very exciting. Our first day kicked off with a bang. We had almost 8,000 people volunteering around the city on one day. Pretty amazing if you think about it. Everything from litter cleanups, working in our parks, working at schools. The really fantastic project was on Parsons Avenue, about a 2-mile stretch there, painting 40 fronts. So 700 volunteers out there. So really making some significant progress for the community. As Council President mentioned, tomorrow is our conclusion with our traditional Community Care Day. We're going to have just about 3,000 people out across the community. So it's going to get us there as we strive towards that goal. People will be working at nonprofit organizations as well as over 20 Columbus schools doing projects there. So at this hour, our registration officially has closed for tomorrow, but there are still ways for people involved. You can go to columbusvolunteerchallenge.org and download a Pay It Forward card. That's a card you can use and do a random act of kindness for somebody. Maybe you're in line and coffee for the people behind you or something of that sort. Give that card to that individual, and it continues on. So in some sense, a small way to continue the legacy. We actually have, I believe, 18,000 of those cards out in the community right now, so I hope people keep passing those along. We have a Tell Your Story wall on the website where people can go and tell the community what they do. So we had stories there from people who volunteered for 35 years and people who just got together with their family to do a project. It's a neat way to talk about what you're doing and really inspire others to serve as well. So encourage that. And then also on United Way's main website, Live United Central Ohio, you have opportunities to sign up for long-term volunteerism, so you can mentor, that kind of thing. So I encourage you to do that. So while the project's tomorrow, we're in great shape there, but there's still ways to be counted and be part of the challenge. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come down, and I really thank everybody in Columbus for stepping up and being part of this.
Well, I want to thank you and obviously United Way CEO and President Janet Jackson. What I've been inspired by is, there have been projects going on all over the city, north, south, east, and west, for several weeks now, and just the impact it's having, not just in the appearance of neighborhoods, but the way people are going about doing the work and feeling good about making a difference in this community. And couldn't be a better way to celebrate, because the biggest difference from this city to so many other cities is our people, our quality of life, and the way we treat each other with our great neighborhoods. So kudos to you, and you've been great partners in this challenge. Any comments from council members? Councilmember Craig?
Thank you, President Ginther, and certainly the mayor and all of those that were there. It really was a sea of, to see these many people out, not only see them, but the excitement that was generated that day with the hope of helping somebody else. Clearly, Dwight L. Moody has said it best, that I'm only one, but I am one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. That which I can do by the grace of God, I will do. And I think that this city, the thing that is always inspiring to me, while we don't have oceans, we don't have mountains, but we have people that care so deeply about their neighbor. And that was demonstrated. It's demonstrated over and over again in the quality of service in our community. So thank you for your leadership, sir. And certainly the president of United Way, Ms. Jackson, and all of those, in some ways, nameless volunteers, but people that care so passionately about others to make sure that we have, our city continues to be one of the greatest cities in this nation and world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Councilmember Bailey.
I think while you guys were over there, Nancy and I were on the south side on the same day with all the volunteers who went down Parsons Avenue and repainted all of those businesses to make that neighborhood, and picked up trash. I think we had about 800 of the volunteers out with us. And you're right, Councilmember Craig, it was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had to see that many people just there to help their neighbors. So thank you for being a part of that. And thank everybody out there that are out there volunteering and helping us clean up our neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Ginther. Todd, congratulations to you and the United Way, and certainly this council and the mayor's office for focusing on community service. It's the greatest gift that we can ever give to our community, individuals helping one another. And I'm very appreciative of you being able to acknowledge all the individuals who are participating, and certainly Columbus as a city, we could not pay for all the services that are needed within our community. And so I thank all the volunteers that are providing services to our residents to make sure that they get the services that they need to move forward with their lives. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. And we look forward to the announcement tomorrow that you've broken right through the 18,000 goal that you all have set for yourself and for this great city. So thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Are there any comments from our elected officials? Mr. Dorian? Mr. Pfeiffer? Judge Barrows, any comments? Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? If not, may we now have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk?
So moved.
Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Finance Committee Ordinance 1832-2012, Development Committee Ordinances 1862, 1863, 1864, 1883, 1884, 1885-2012, and Resolution 158X-2012, Public Safety and Judiciary Committee Ordinance 1881-2012, Public Service and Transportation Committee Ordinance 1903-2012, Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 1574, 1703, 1788, 1814, and 1823-2012.
The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Resolutions of Expression 164X, 162X-2012, Development Committee Ordinances 1867, 1868, 1870, 1871, 1872, 1898, 1901, 1905, 1906, 1909, 1914, and 1931-2012, Technology Committee Ordinances 1493, 1698, 1699, 1807, 1877-2012, Public Safety and Judiciary Committee Ordinances 1780, 1795, 1798, 1799, 1819, 1848, 1849-2012. Public Service and Transportation Committee Ordinances 1645, 1701, 1775, 1808, 1830, 1833, 1853, 1855, 1858, 1859, 1874, 1876, 1888, 1902, and 1904-2012. Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 1471, 1549, 1710, 1711, 1730, 1812, 1829-2012. Appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0129-2012.
Thank you. We do have one speaker on the consent agenda this evening, Mr. Nathaniel Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins has signed up to speak in support of 1871-2012. Mr. Wilkins, as you come forward, if you'd share your name, address, any organizations you represent, and sir, you have 3 minutes.
Once again, this Nate Wilkins, 1612 Arlington Avenue. Once again, I'm kind of baffled about this land bank property once again. Let me say I'm for this, and only one reason why is because we kept talking about this, but we don't know what the property looks like. There is no notification on property that's held in a land bank, such as 1699 and 1631 and 1606 of Genesee Avenue. We also talk about where can somebody buy this without coming down at 109 Front Street to obtain a property. We have what you call historical property in the area. And once again, we all talk about this. You know, it's unfortunately that I had called 311 since I've been in my neighborhood since 2007. I talked about this at 1638, I believe, Genesee Avenue. They finally tagged that property after I done called it in this past week. I've been in on Arlington Avenue since 2007. This property has sat vacant for over several years. This company also owns another property on Genesee Avenue, and it's this one. It's right across the street from that lady. You know, instead of having this, put some signs up that anybody can buy this, not through a land bank, but through a neighborhood land. You know, we talk and talk, but people want to know, how can we get a hold of this? It's up to the residents to take back. You also talk about, you know, maybe moving this longer further. I don't know. I'm just kind of bothered behind this, but I'm hoping that this can pass, that you have in all your development, that you have Zach Klein, and I'm hoping that this can be done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Director Safford, is there anything you'd like to say regarding this legislation 1871-2012? Any questions or things that you'd like to point out based on Mr. Wilkins' comments?
If I may, I think what Mr. Wilkins is looking for maybe is just the department's number if they're interested in acquiring a land bank property, because he was curious about the number to reach if there are folks that are interested in land bank properties.
Thank you, President Ginther. Councilperson Klein, you're absolutely correct. We will get with Mr. Wilkins and share with him our communication process on all land bank properties that are held within the city. We currently have all the properties that we hold on the website available to the public. They can make bids. There's certain policies and procedures that we have to do to order to dispose of the property. This legislative body reads those or approves those sales. You can see a lot of them conveyances, and you'll see sales, side yards, and so forth. But we do make those properties held in land bank available to the general public throughout the land bank. Unfortunately, we only have one location, which is 109, but we may look in the future to have satellite offices, if need be, to go out in the public and share that. I know John Turner goes out to various area commissions repeatedly talking about the land, the process, what we have available, not only for doing the land bank, but also under this vacant and abandoned initiative that we're doing.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council members? If not, may we have a motion for approval of these items designated as consent actions?
So move.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Craig,
Yes.
Klein, Miller, Mills,
Yes, with the exception of ordinance 1906, 1549, 1711-2012, on which I am abstaining.
Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Yes, consent agenda carries. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day tabled and emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. The first ordinance I have is 0159X-2012 to accept the amounts and rates by the Franklin County Budget Commission for the city's tax budget for 2013 and to declare an emergency. This action is required as part of the county tax budget process. This resolution accepts the amounts and rates determined by the Franklin County Budget Commission and adopts the city's 2013 tax budget. This is one of the steps that is needed to allow the City of Columbus to receive local government funds, which are monies collected by the state of Ohio and distributed via the counties. The tax budget also establishes the 2013 property tax rate for Columbus residents. The rate will remain the same and has not increased for over 56 years. This council, in accordance with the provisions of the law, have previously adopted a tax budget for the fiscal year commencing January 1, 2013. Auditor Dorian, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson and President and all council members. That was very well stated. This is council's official concurrence that the property tax rate will remain the same.
That's correct. No increase. If there are no questions or comments from my council members, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next ordinance is ordinance number 1960-2012 to authorize the city auditor to allocate the city's share of the casino tax revenues received from the state of Ohio for 2012, 2013, and each year thereafter, and to declare an emergency. This legislation is a result of numerous agreements between the City of Columbus, Nationwide, Penn National, and agreements to support neighborhoods located on the west side of Columbus. This legislation establishes various sub-funds and outlines the city's plans for meeting the commitments which were outlined in legislation previously passed by this council. This legislation also allocates the city's share of the casino tax revenues which have been received from the state of Ohio for fiscal years, which has been received, but is also for fiscal years 2012, 13, and each year thereafter. Now, I mentioned that we have a number of sub-funds that will that have priorities in how the dollars are going to be spent. In 2012, the number one priority will be sub-fund 275001, which is casino debt service. And this money is going to be reimbursed, $15 million that will be used to reimburse CD Gaming Ventures, LLC, for public roadway improvements. The total annual debt payments will vary year by year and will end approximately 2032. The second priority this year is for the Subfund 003 for the Casino West Side Community Fund. And in this particular legislation, we will be focusing on the necessary projects that have been discussed with the West Side, and it's an agreement between the City of Columbus and Penn National Gaming. It will be $2.5 million. Each has agreed to contribute $1 million in 2012, $750,000 in 13, $500,000 in 14, and $250,000 in 15. The third priority for this year would be for the casino dollars would be going into our general fund. And that's for this year. For next year, of course, these same funds will be utilized. However, in 2013, the only difference is there'll be sub-fund 002. And this particular fund is with is for the nation, for the arena. And the agreed percentages to this agreement were from 25% to 32%. And it is for lease payments related to the lease agreement and sublease agreement between the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority. So those are how the dollars will be allocated. And I know that there have been some questions regarding the Funding Review Advisory Committee. And certainly we have now received the documents from them regarding increased funding for the arts, for human services, and for Experience Columbus. We have received the recommendations, and we certainly will be reviewing those recommendations. Those meetings began in 2011. We just received the report during our council break. And so this legislation we're passing today certainly does in no way prevent council from considering all of the recommendations that were presented to us. So if there are any questions or comments by my council members, or any other comments? Councilmember Klein.
I would just thank you, Chair Tyson. And I would just like to note, and I think there may be some spears on this, and some of them have contacted my office about the casino and its location on the west side and expenditures going directly to the west side. And I think this is a question maybe for the finance department, but obviously we just recently passed an ordinance, the previous one, about, and you discussed the local government fund and how the local government fund has been drastically cut for cities like Columbus and municipalities, school districts across the state of Ohio. And the city of Columbus is going to be realizing these cuts. They've already realized some, they'll realize more, and there's significant cuts in our budget. But in that, the revenue from the casino going into our general fund will help with the loss of the local government funding. But this goes maybe to the director of, or the deputy director of finance, or to the auditor. Does the council or when the economy continues to recover to a level to where maybe the cuts aren't so hardly felt to the city, are we able to amend this to, if at the time we choose to ensure that maybe a funding stream goes to the west side above and beyond, I think, whatever the sub account was?
Yes, Councilmember Klein, President Ginther, other members of council. Yes, ordinance by no means obligates us to any particular use for this funding. As you stated, we have lost significant revenue from the state of Ohio over the past couple years, and we will initially probably need to use the bulk of this revenue to offset those cuts. The other unknown really right now is whether the state of Ohio is through cutting local governments, to keep that in mind as well as we move forward. But yes, there's that flexibility in the future to divert this funding to other purposes. Okay,
thank you. It's good to know that the flexibility is there. Obviously, we have to practice within the budget realities that we live in and the cuts from the governor and the legislature. And when we're doing a good job, and thankfully the citizens of Columbus passed the income tax increase in 2009 to put us in the position we are. But so that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. I think that flexibility really does lie within this council, based upon working with the administration and the auditor. We hold that card, basically. So with that in mind, we have two speakers, and the first speaker is Nancy Renard. And please come up and state who you represent. And she is speaking against this ordinance. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you for hearing me this evening, and President Ginther, thank you for having us. And I didn't know you were having such a reception this evening. I recalled some of those people, so I'm really dating myself, aren't I? And asking Councilman Klein if this budget that you're proposing this evening has some flexibility. That's relieving to hear, and so that takes a lot of tension off of us. But what we were looking at as far as the casino funds, and being from the Hilltop Business Association, some of our businesses have been asking how these funds would be appropriated and why more money isn't coming to the Hilltop area, especially since we lobbied heavily to bring the casino to the area and are trying to make best use of those that coming to the area for development. Some of the other concerns that we have in the Hilltop area is some of the housing stock that is going into considerable disrepair. Being a licensed realtor, I keep track of the numbers coming through. And there's a considerably large area that once had a median income of $90,000 on houses. That's now down to $11,000. That itself gives a bit to be concerned with. If we don't turn that area around soon, we're probably not going to be able to do it like we would hope to have done that. So with casino funds, hopefully tax funds coming into the area for some additional development projects, we would hopefully have a better area for those things to grow. We have a great deal of community support coming to the area with our other organizations now. We have a lot of collaboration, and I hope you see that changing that budget to have more of the tax funds coming into the West Side is to everybody's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Renard. The priority fund I just mentioned, between 2012 and 2015, right now is $5 million between the cities putting in 2.5 and Penn Gaming will put in 2.5. And when this was discussed with a number of the community leaders on the West Side, they stated they wanted these dollars to be used for a variety of projects related to the neighborhood immediately surrounding the site, including but not limited to job training, minority affairs, economic development, and/or capital projects.
Thank you.
So I think those would be some of the areas you just talked about, and that's what's in this agreement.
I think that if we're looking at the Greater Hilltop area too, we have 65,000 plus residents. We're probably one of the largest commission areas in the city. And with the casino coming in, we are expecting more growth. And with the city areas having been annexed into from the casino, we do have more growth needs than we've had in the past. So thank you for considering that and asking those questions this evening for us.
You're welcome, and thank you so very much for coming down this evening. Thank you. The next speaker is Christy Krissinger. Good evening. And please state your name, and if you represent an organization, please state that also, or your address. Thank you.
My address? Okay. My name is Christy Krissinger. I reside at 1104 St. Agnes Avenue in the Brookshire neighborhood on the Hilltop. I don't represent any particular group. I am just a concerned Hilltop citizen, being basically a lifelong Hilltop resident. We won't talk about how long that's been, but we are in definite need of some assistance. What I've read from the paper, we're expecting between $15 and $18 million annual from the casino. Right now, we're getting $2.5 million, which is a very, very small percentage. That's what's been allocated. The West Broad Street corridor is in dire need of infrastructure improvements and beautification. There are some really bad spots. It's vastly underutilized, and it just reeks of urban decay. Certain spots of West Broad Street, they're just horrible. We need some help there. And paving the street isn't it. We've got to get businesses in there. We've got to get it cleaned up. We've got to get it vibrant. It could be like the Short North. The arena just didn't want the casino. They didn't want it. West Side said, okay, we'll take it. But yet the arena district is getting 25% of the money. And we're getting about 7-8%. For a Hilltop resident, that's a little hard to take when we see that they didn't want it because of the issues that come along with the casino. We've taken it, but they're getting more of the money than we are. We understand you have to share the money. That we're not saying we get all of it, but this proposal seems a little quick. Just saying just this little bit's going to the hilltop, the rest going to the general fund. You may or may not get something from there. The hilltop deserves a little better than that, and I would hope that you would not approve this in its current state, but be a little more specific about what you're actually giving to the hilltop for its contributions to this city. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down and sharing. Hopefully I've answered part of your question with just some of the information that I gave to the previous speaker. And I know that this particular council has certainly been very much concerned and also been making sure that we have been investing more dollars into the West Side. And we will continue to do that. I'm sure I'll let Director Safford say a few words. But we certainly have been investing. This council has, Councilmember Klein and Council President Ginther, through the capital budget, have been putting dollars there. In terms of the Arena District, this was an agreement that we've already committed to in order to continue to save many, many jobs within the city of Columbus. And that was part of our agreement. And certainly, we really can't go back and change that agreement, but there certainly is a commitment to the West Side, and that's why I made sure that it's $5 million between the two of us, as well as we've also, in terms of having the casino on the West Side, there was it's a $15 million investment for the remediation of that property to be able to bring the public roadway improvements to the neighborhood. And our hopes that having this major development, working with the leaders on the West Side of Columbus, I think Western Development, working with Chris Hadesy and a number of people, that hopefully we see this as hopefully energizing the community to do to be able to begin to improve what you've already been doing in your community, and to make that the West Side and the Hilltop a great place to begin to live, work, and raise your family. There's also been investment, I know, in Franklinton with the new Comfort Arts District. So we certainly do. We hear you, and this piece of legislation, really, we've made these commitments, and hopefully I've answered some of your questions, and we will continue to want to focus on improving your community as we do the other communities. Any other comments from my council members? Councilmember Klein?
I just want to thank you and Ms. Renard for coming down, and I think you are right about a lot of things, but as I previously noted, one consideration, and really the main consideration of why I'm going to vote in favor of this legislation is because of the cuts in local government funding. And so the city of Columbus is fortunate enough to have a casino, and because of that, we're able to fill gaps from money taken from the city. And as the economy continues to rebound and we have the resources necessary to no longer have the need to fill the gaps, then I think it's important, because we have the flexibility, to revisit legislation like this to address some of the concerns that you have directly. In the meantime, we do have the regular 2013 budget coming up. We have the capital improvement budget, and conversations among all residents of this, regardless of where you're able. We'll be able to work within the means that we have, but because of the cuts in the local government fund and the ability that and the thankfulness that we have the casino to help fill those, I think is necessary for the money to go into the general revenue fund for now in order to fill that gap. Otherwise, we'd have to cut services elsewhere. So, but thank you for sharing your thoughts and opinions and coming down to address us, you and Mrs. Renard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Again, thanks for coming down and sharing your comments. We appreciate them. If there are no other questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. I'd now like to move to Health and Human Services. Thank you. I have ordinance number 1822. Is to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept a grant from the Ohio Department of Health for the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant Program in the amount of $1,105,000 and $105,000 $130 to authorize the appropriation of $1,105,130 to the Health Department and the Health Department's grants funds and to declare an emergency. Columbus Public Health has been awarded a grant from the Ohio Department of Health originating from the Centers for Disease Control. This ordinance is needed to accept and appropriate the grant monies to fund for 2012-2013 Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant for the period August 10, 2012 through June 30, 2013. This program establishes a Franklin County and City of Columbus support network that will be required in the event of bioterrorism activity within the Central Ohio region and the state of Ohio. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller, Mills, Paley, Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. I have an announcement. On Tuesday, September the 11th, and Thursday, September 13th, I will host a public hearings on the Health and Human Services Committee. Tuesday's hearing will begin at 5 p.m. and Thursday's hearing will begin at 2 p.m. And there are two different times to meet the needs of the organizations which will be coming down and testifying. The purpose of this hearing is to discuss the programs and services provided by the city-supported social service agencies, and representatives will be here from various agencies to testify before this committee. Public testimony will be accepted. Anyone wishes to address City Council on this matter must fill out a speaker slip on the day of the hearing from 8 a.m. until the start of the hearing. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Administration Committee. Councilmember Craig chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in the Administration Committee, I have ordinance 1820-2012 to authorize the Human Resources Director to enter into contract with Claims Technologies Incorporated to provide the City of Columbus an audit of UHC medical claims and Delta Dental claims, and to authorize the expenditure of $50,000 from the Employee Benefits Fund. That includes all expenses, and to declare an emergency. The City of Columbus recently solicited responses to a formal request for proposal for a third-party medical and dental claim audit to identify potential claims payments, errors by United Healthcare of Ohio, otherwise known as UHC, and Delta Dental, respectively, recovery overpayments, and to ensure plans are administered in accordance with the negotiated contracts. Four vendors responded to the formal RFP after conducting an analysis of the responses to assess their ability to perform an electronic screening and analysis and a claims administration. Claims Technologies Incorporated was selected to provide an audit of medical and dental claims for the period of October the 1st, 2009 through September the 30th, 2012, due to its ability to perform a comprehensive audit at the competitive audit fees. The company performed the city's audit in 2001, 2004, and 2009, and has maintained data to allow for a comparison to this year's audit. This ordinance is being requested as an emergency measure to expedite the audit. Director Christie, additional comments relative to this ordinance.
Chairman Craig, President Ginther, members of council, good evening. Based upon the recommendations of City Auditor Dorian and his team, and with their consent and support, our Employee Benefits and Risk Management Division periodically solicits formal bids to conduct a third-party audit as described. The purpose of the audit is to ensure the claims are being paid consistent with negotiated contracts. Performance guarantees exist in each of our contracts with our respective vendors. The audit ensures that each vendor is held accountable for their compliance with the specific performance guarantees and identifies any claims payment errors. Any identified noncompliance may result in a percentage reduction in the administrative fees that we pay to each of the vendors. And the audit also enables us to recover any overpayments. The audits are conducted every 3 to 5 years. This audit in particular will review claims processed between October 2009 and September of 2012. And the total cost of the audit is $50,000. We respectfully request your approval and support of this ordinance.
Thank you very much for your comments, Director Christie. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? Again, we believe that this is effective and efficient government, and I move for passage of this legislation.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
May I move to Veterans Affairs? In Veterans Affairs, tonight I have Ordinance 1958-2012 to authorize a continuation of military leave with city employees who have and or will be called to active military duty in connection with ongoing homeland security efforts for up to 1 year, and for the city's employees for the same time they're called to active service with the National Guard and Reserve forces of the U.S. military in connection with international and domestic response events, to allow for the continuation of city-provided group health and life insurance under the same terms and conditions currently in effect to city employees and their beneficiaries, and to declare an emergency. As stated, this legislation authorizes a continuation of military leave with and city-provided group health and life insurance to city employees who have or will be called to active military duty in connection with ongoing homeland security efforts for up to 1 year, and I stress 1 year, and for city employees for the time they are called to active service with the National Guard and Reserve forces of the U.S. military in connection with international and domestic response events. This council will continue to support and assist those city employees and their families who have been or will be financially burdened by the employees being called to active military duty. I need to note that the city of Columbus is a national leader in this area, which means that those that are being deployed, those employees deployed, will receive his or her total compensation and benefits allocation for up to 1 year. And again, I am extraordinarily proud of the administration and my colleagues on council for their support of our military men and women as they serve our nation. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you, President Ginther. That's all that I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Craig. Our next committee is the Development Committee. Councilmember Klein chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. The first two pieces of legislation are tied together, so I will yield the microphone to Director Safford or someone from the Department of Development that he seems fit to discuss exactly what the two pieces of legislation are. So, Director Safford, if you could, because they are, even though they're separate pieces, they're inextricably intertwined. So, Director Safford.
Thank you, Chairman Klein, President Ginther, and other members of council. I will ask the Deputy Director, Bill Webster, to come up and give a brief overview of these two pieces of legislation this evening.
Good evening, Klein, President Ginther, members of council. These two items are dissolutions of job creation tax credits. The first, Ordinance 1893 for Infocision Management Corporation, and the second one, Ordinance 1894 for P. Morgan Chase. What has happened in each of these cases, the first with Infocision, is that we awarded them, we awarded this incentive actually back in 2006, I believe it is, and for this company to grow by 250 jobs up on Bisbee Boulevard. The economy right around that time began to turn bad. The project never quite panned out the way that the company anticipated. The jobs were not created, and they actually never took advantage of the incentive. We were informed this past reporting year that they were no longer operating out of the site, and they just simply asked for us to dissolve the agreement since they were never able to use it. Given that they didn't use it, there wouldn't be any need for clawback of any sort. JP Morgan Chase, a little bit different story. Their incentive was put in place a couple of years ago, and this was actually two incentives. There was a job creation tax credit and a job growth incentive. JP Morgan Chase, being a banking institution with a number of subsidiaries, we offered them both incentives so that way they could get a maximum performance benefit. They are utilizing the job growth incentive. They have created the jobs on schedule as they've anticipated creating them. However, the entities that are using the incentive do not have a need for the job creation tax credit. So instead of leaving it on the books, they just simply ask as a housekeeping measure that we dissolve it so that way they don't have to report on it annually as a result.
Thank you, Deputy Director Webster. Just to reiterate, there's no realized benefit from these companies. They didn't live up to their bargain. There's no need for us to claw back any money, because I know when I see any sort of dissolution of a job tax credit, I want to ensure to protect the taxpayer money that these businesses, any business that realized some sort of tax credit, lived up to their bargain, or if they didn't, we make sure we hold them accountable. But this is not the case in these pieces of legislation.
Chairman Klein, President Ginther, members of council, you are correct. That is not the case. In our job creation tax credit agreements, it outlines the scenarios that a clawback would be necessary if they were receiving a benefit. But you are correct. In both of these instances, neither organization utilized incentive, neither realized a credit or a benefit.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Mills.
In the legislation referencing the agreement with JP Morgan Chase, there were jobs created. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, in fact, the agreement calls for the creation of 1,000 jobs. And while I don't have their job creation numbers in front of me, I believe they've exceeded that already.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
The first is 1893-2012 to dissolve the job creation tax credit agreement between the City of Columbus and Infocision Management Corporation, to direct the Director of the Department of Development to notify as necessary the local and state tax authorities and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
1894-2012 to dissolve the job creation tax credit agreement between the City of Columbus and JP Morgan Chase Bank National Association and JP Morgan Chase and Company, to direct the Director of the Department of Development to notify as necessary the local and state tax authorities and to declare an emergency. I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
The final piece of legislation, 1899-2012, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to make financial assistance available through the Home Again Old Oaks Initiative, administered by the Housing Division and awarded as grants to home buyers, to authorize the expenditure of $1.275 million from the 2012 Housing Preservation Fund and to declare an emergency. This is a unique and exciting program for one of Columbus's historic neighborhoods. And Director Safford, do you mind sharing some insight about how this program is going to operate in the Old Oaks area?
Thank you, Chairman Klein, President Ginther, and other members of council. I concur with you. This is a very exciting initiative that was created as a result of lengthy discussions on how to deal holistically with vacant and abandoned properties within the City of Columbus. We have one hand looking to cite bad actors as it relates to abandoned properties and demolish those that are necessary. And on the other hand, we're looking to restore part of our homeowners, side yard home ownership, and also with this creative program to help a community has seen substantial vacant and abandoned houses in it. It's a architectural and historic significant neighborhood adjacent to Children's Hospital. We felt that we needed to put some effort to incentivize homeowners to come into the area of all income levels to claim these houses, purchase them, and put some dollars to them to fix them up where it becomes a burden or prohibitive as it relates to costs in doing these homes. These dollars will be used with different income levels of different reasons, a grant program, as long as they stay in their home, to help offset the cost of rehab and hopefully get the certificate of appropriateness through the historic preservation process. So we're excited about it. We're going to work with the neighborhood. Hopefully the neighborhood is very excited that we can incentivize folks to come back into the central city and occupy these wonderful homes.
So are you, and I just want to understand what you're saying, and I think I do, are you suggesting that an objective of this program is to help the gap between what may be a cost-prohibitive renovation of a historic home, that this program will help make that happen? Is that what you're saying, Director?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments before I call up my speaker? We do have one speaker, Lucy Wolf, speaking in favor. Please come to the podium. State your name or any organizations you represent, and you have 3 minutes. Thanks for coming down to council.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Klein, President Ginther, and members of City Council. My name is Lucy Wolf, and I am Economic Development Chair of the Livingston Avenue Area Commission. On behalf of the Area Commission, I would like to encourage Council to approve the Home Again Community Development Block Grant Funding Program for Old Oaks Historic District. As a licensed realtor and a board member of the Columbus Historical Society, I recognize the economic and historic importance in preserving the character of the older neighborhoods of Columbus. The current economic downturn has caused neighborhoods such as Old Oaks to suffer in market value. In the last year, only 7 homes have been sold in Old Oaks at an average market value of $25,000. As of today, there are 8 single-family homes for sale at an average list price of $43,000. The cost to renovate these homes to historic code far exceeds the borrowing capability of many potential buyers. For example, the estimate for renovating the land bank-owned house at 705 Oakwood was approximately $230,000 and includes exterior costs such as slate roof and box gutter repair. While the neighborhood has longtime residents that have been dedicated to improving their homes, there are many structures within the historic district that are in great need of preservation. A home-based program such as the proposed pilot CDBG funding grant program could create incentive to help with neighborhood revitalization and increase the market value of the area. Home buyers will have the chance to purchase property to be used as their primary residence through special city assistance based on the individual's borrowing capacity. This program is especially important because it will provide an opportunity to renovate the exterior of homes to historic code specifications, thus preserving the character of this architecturally significant neighborhood. While this development incentive has the potential to entice new residents, it can also improve property values and quality of life for the neighborhood's current residents, as well as create jobs for local contractors and craftsmen. I would like to thank Mayor Coleman, Director Safford, and Member Council for considering Old Oaks Historic for this pilot program and for their continuing support in all developments through the City of Columbus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. And I was going to ask you the same question. I asked Director Safford, but you gave an example of exactly the costs that are necessary to overhaul one of these large historic homes. So I won't ask you the same question.
Okay.
Any questions for Ms. Wolf? Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this particular piece of legislation? I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And that's all I have in development. Thank you.
How about that for timing? At this time, I'd ask for a motion to recess regular meeting number 45, and we'll go into regular meeting number 46 with zoning.
So moved.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
We will recess and reconvene with zoning in just a moment. Regular meeting number 46 will now come to order. Can I get you to dispense with the reading of the journal?
So moved.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Are there any communications and reports received by the city clerk?
No, there are not.
Are Are there any first readings of 30-day legislation?
No, there are not.
Thank you. We will now go to the Zoning Committee. President Pro Tem Miller chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in zoning, our first item is 1761-2012 to amend Ordinance 1133-2007, passed June 28, 2004, for the property located at 6120 Central College Road by amending Section 3 of the ordinance to increase the allowed square footage in the CPD sub area. There are no speakers. It did receive City Department recommendation for approval. And if there are no questions or comments, I'd like to first to waive second reading.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
1825-2012 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3371.01 P1 Private Parking District of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1779 South Washington Avenue to permit single-unit residential development in the P1 Private Parking District and to declare an emergency. The proposed use is a single-unit residential development. It received the Columbus Southside Area Commission recommendation for approval and also the City Department recommendation for approval. If there are no questions, I'd like to first to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I'd like to amend to emergency.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And next, I would like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
1831-2012 to amend Ordinance 1179-2012, passed on June 11, 2012, for the property located at 584 Stambaugh Avenue by amending Section 1 to reflect the correct zoning district. And this received the City Department recommendation for approval, and I have no speaker slips. I would like to first waive second reading if there are no questions.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I would like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
1837-2012 to rezone 6523 Abbey Trails Drive, being 10.0 plus or minus acres located on the south side of Abbey Trails Drive, 910 plus or minus feet east of Gender Road from CPD Commercial Plan Development District to LAR 12 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is MH Murphy Development Company. The proposed use is multi-unit residential development. It received a Development Commission recommendation for approval and also the City Department recommendation for approval. If there are no questions or comments, I'd like to first to waive second reading.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
1841-2012 to rezone 4420 Climb Road, being 3.17 plus or minus acres located at the northeast corner of Klein and Georgesville Road from LC2 Limited Commercial District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District and to declare an emergency. The applicant is FS Real Estate Development LLC. Proposed use is fuel cell and car wash in conjunction with a convenience retail. It received the Development Commission recommendation for approval, the Greater Hilltop Area Commission recommendation for approval, and also the City Department recommendation for approval. If there are no questions or comments, I would like to first to amend to emergency.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you very much.
1842-2012 to rezone 2301 Refugee Road, being .81 plus or minus acres located on the south side Refugee Road, 1,275 plus or minus feet east of English Road from RRR Restricted Rural Residential District to M Manufacturing District. The applicant is Randolph Hall. The proposed use is industrial use. It received the Far South Columbus Area Commission recommendation for approval, the Development Commission recommendation for approval, and also the City Department. They have recommendation for approval. If there are no questions or comments, I would like to first to waive second reading.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
1843-2012 to rezone 2236 Refugee Road, being 1.19 plus or minus acres, located on the north and south sides Refugee Road, 885 plus or minus feet east of English Road, from R1 Residential District to M Manufacturing District. The applicant is Randolph Hall. Proposed use is industrial use. It received the Far South Columbus Area Commission recommendation for approval, and also the Development Commission recommendation for approval, and also the City Department recommendation for approval. If there are no questions or comments, I would like to first to waive second reading.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
1896-2012 to rezone 1419 Chesapeake Avenue, being .77 plus or minus acres, located on the north side of Chesapeake Avenue, 940 plus or minus feet east of North Star Road, from R Rural District to AR1 Apartment Residential District, and to declare an emergency. The applicant is Metropolitan Holdings LLC. Proposed use is multi-unit residential development. It received a Development Commission recommendation for approval, the 5th by Northwest Area Commission recommendation for approval, and also the City Department recommendation for approval. If there are no questions or comments, I'd like to first to amend to emergency.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next is to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And last is 1897-2012 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333.02, AR12, ARLD, and AR1, Apartment Residential District, 3312.21, Landscaping and Screening, 3333.16, fronting on a public street, 3333.18, Building Lines, and 3333.25, perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes, for the property located at 1419 Chesapeake Avenue, to permit 4 two-unit dwellings in a private parking lot within a multiple dwelling development with reduced development standards in the AR1 Apartment Residential District, and to declare an emergency. The applicant is Metropolitan Holdings LLC. Proposed use is 4 two-unit dwellings in a private parking lot within a multiple dwelling development. It received the 5th by Northwest Area Commission recommendation for approval, and also the City Department recommendation for approval. If there are no questions or comments, I'd like to first amend to emergency.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And finally, I'd like to move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And that is all we have in zoning tonight, President Ginther.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn regular meeting number 46.
So moved.
Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
We stand in adjournment. I'd entertain a motion to reconvene regular meeting number 45.
So
Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Reconvene regular meeting number 45. Our next committee is the Technology Committee. President Pro Tem Miller chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. In the Technology Committee tonight, we have one item, 1491-2012, to authorize the Director of Department of Technology to modify a contract with Information Builders Incorporated to purchase additional business intelligence software and professional service to assist in implementing a BI system for the Department of Public Utilities in the amount of $268,609 to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $268,609 from the Department of Technology Information Services Division, Capital Improvement Bond Fund, and the Department of Technology Internal Services Fund, and to declare an emergency. This phase of the business intelligence project will provide improved information delivery for the Department of Public Utilities systems supporting fiscal management, performance management, safety, asset management, operations and maintenance, and regulatory compliance. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And that is all I have in technology tonight, President Ginther.
Thank you. Our next committee is the Public Safety and Judiciary Committee. Councilmember Mills chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in Public Safety and Judiciary have the following ordinances, beginning with Ordinance 1099-2012, to authorize the municipal court clerk to enter into a contract with 3SG Corporation to conduct a feasibility study for an electronic filing solution in the Franklin County Municipal Court, to authorize an expenditure up to $24,000 from the Municipal Court Clerk Computer Fund, and to declare an emergency. The study will examine the feasibility of developing an e-filing solution in the Franklin County Municipal Court, taking into account the needs and operations of the offices of the Franklin County Municipal Court Clerk's Office, Franklin County County Sheriff, Franklin County Public Defender, Columbus City Attorney, and the Columbus Police Department. E-filing is a comprehensive solution that incorporates a web-based court document filing solution, a document imaging solution, an electronic document management system with the workflow capability, and a case management system. The e-filing solution will integrate each of these components into a complete system that eliminates or reduces the need for producing and or retaining volumes of paper documents. If there are no comments or questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I have Ordinance 1599 to amend the Department of Public Safety's 2012 capital improvement budget to authorize and direct the Finance and Management Director to issue a purchase order for custom medium-duty medics for the Division of Fire from Horton Emergency Vehicles, to waive the provisions of competitive bidding, to authorize the expenditure of $3,347,018.78 from the Department of Public Safety's GO Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. The Fire Division has a need to replace medics that are beyond their useful life and have high maintenance costs. The Public Safety Department is requesting a bid waiver so that the best possible price can be obtained by having the purchasing office negotiate directly with our vendor, Horton Emergency Vehicles. Horton Emergency Vehicles has been our primary supplier to medics for over a decade. The Horton product has been proven to be a reliable vehicle. The vehicle body is locally manufactured, and Horton has provided excellent service to the Division of Fire and the Fleet Management Divisions. Purchasing the Horton vehicles also enables the city to standardize units, which decreases the number of parts carried in inventory and enables fire to train emergency services personnel on one standard unit. Included with the medic purchases will be all the pertinent equipment utilized on the vehicles. By waiving competitive bidding, the administration was able to reduce the UTC contract price by 3%. If there are no other comments or questions, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. The next two ordinances that I have, I want to yield the floor first after introducing the first one to Judge Barrows, who would like to add some comments, and I would like for him to share in terms of these two pieces of legislation. First, I have Ordinance 1796-2012 to authorize and direct the administrative and presiding judge of the Franklin County Municipal Court to enter into a contract with Dale to authorize expenditure of up to $58,142.06 with Dale for additional sand storage to an existing system, to waive the competitive bid process, and to declare an emergency. Judge Barrows, would you add some information related to this legislation and Ordinance 1816 that I will present immediately following your comments?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson Mills, President Ginther, and members of council. As you all are probably aware, the court, by its design, is the most conservative of the three branches of government. But I'm proud to say that some kicking and screaming, we're dragging ourselves into the 21st century as it relates to technology. The 1099 that you just passed is an example of that. We're cooperating with the clerk to try to get paperless in the municipal court. 1796 is funded out of our probation user fee that we charge to people who are placed on probation, so it's not an additional cost to the city. It's money that the court is generating and is spending to store our information electronically. We are doing that now, and 1796 expands our ability into the future so that the probation department, which now uses approximately 25% of its floor space to store paper records, can eventually use that space to more efficiently represent the city and serve the citizens of its community. With regard to 1816, once again, our thanks to this City Council and the City Government for supporting our efforts to rehabilitate and to reclaim our citizens who have been lost to the streets through human trafficking, through drug addiction, and through prostitution. This directly reflects the work of the Catch Court run by Judge Paul Herbert, to reclaim the lives of women who have been reduced to prostitution. Dome House is a private organization that provides housing for some of these women in the transitional period of their 2-year probation, which, when successful, results in the dismissal of their charges. And I would announce as a side matter that on October 12th, the second graduation from the Catch Court will be taking place, and some of you may have and should already have received your invitations to that.
Thank you, Judge Barrows. I will present the ordinance and share my comments related to Catch Court and also related to the recently publicly announced Veterans Court. I present Ordinance 1816-2012 to authorize and direct the administrative and presiding judge of the Franklin County Municipal Court to enter into contract with DOMA International to authorize the expenditure of up to $40,000 for a program for the Catch participants and to declare an emergency. I want to mention that along with Catch Court and some of the other pieces of our specialty docket, we have really seen a change in several members of our society. And if anyone has an opportunity to attend either the graduation, as Judge Barrows mentioned, but also any opportunity to sit in the court to watch Judge Herbert, Judge Vandekar, and the others operate the specialty docket, because it is truly a commendable opportunity for us to reach out through the court system for members in our society. The Catch Court allows ladies to move from victim to survivor, and that is absolutely priceless. Moving with life skills and mentorship and workforce development provided through DOMA, and it is really a benefit to them and continue to support and provide for their families. If there are no other comments or questions, I move for passage.
And just to be clear, Madam Chair, you're moving for passage of 1816?
I'm sorry, I didn't move for 1796.
We need to go back to 1796 after 1816.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's been moved and seconded for 1816-2012. Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Passed.
Thank you. I will represent Ordinance 1796-2012 to authorize and direct the administrative and presiding judge of the Franklin County Municipal Court to enter into a contract with Dale to authorize the expenditure of up to $58,142.06 with Dale for an additional sand storage to an existing system, to waive the competitive bid process, and to declare an emergency. If there are no comments or questions, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. And last, I have Ordinance 1836-2012 to authorize and direct the mayor of the city of Columbus to accept a fiscal year 2012 Forensic DNA Backlog Reduction Program Award from the National Institute of Justice, to authorize a crime lab manager as the official city representative to act in connection with this grant, to authorize an appropriation of $248,307 from the unappropriated balance of the general government grant fund to the Division of Police to cover the cost of the fiscal year 2012 Forensic DNA Backlog Reduction Grant Program activities and expenditures, and to declare an emergency. This federally supported program seeks to improve the infrastructure and analysis of existing state and local crime laboratories that conduct DNA analysis so they can process DNA samples efficiently and cost effectively. The funds have been awarded for DNA analysis supplies, overtime of current analysts to work on casework, and the equipment and the funds for training for the current and the new DNA analysis in the latest technologies in this ever-evolving field. The cost breakdown for this grant award is in personnel, fringe benefits, and testing supplies, and also training. These grant funds will help the Division of Police Crime Lab to process DNA samples efficiently and reduce the wait time for DNA case analysis, which we know is extremely important in case solving, which allows for closure for our families when unfortunately faced with crime. And is there any comments, Deputy Director Speaks, you'd like to add to this legislation?
Thank you, Councilmember Mills, President Ginther, members of council. No, as you know, DNA is becoming more and more ubiquitous in the prosecution of cases. Crime labs from across the country are under a great demand. And as you all know, we are very proud of our crime lab, which is not only nationally but internationally accredited. These federal monies are seeking to help crime labs from across the nation, and we will certainly take any grants that we are able to get to help us process our case here.
Thank you, Director Speaks. If there are no other comments or questions, yes, President Ginther.
Madam Chair, thank you. Deputy Director, you probably could anticipate I was going to ask about this. This is one of those issues near and dear to my heart because there are a lot of police departments around the country who fell far behind in processing a lot of DNA requests, even around violent crime and other types of crime. How are we doing with respect to our backlog? We've been able to avoid that with the foresight and thought that the director and members of the crime lab team have put forth amendments in recent years for additional lab staff, scientists, other folks to work on this. But how are we doing?
President Ginther, members of council, as I said, as with all labs, there's a tremendous demand. We are, I don't have the exact figures, but I'm happy to get you. We are a little behind, as all labs are around the country. However, I can tell you we have a great relationship with both the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office and the City Attorney's Office with respect to prioritizing cases when they come up, so that's never an issue by the time trial rolls around. Secondly, as you know, with the benefit of your funding, we are in the process of building a new and designing a new crime lab, which will help in terms of both the size. We've been in the same facility for the 1970s. Certainly, we have outgrown it. But the new crime lab will address size. It will address some additional equipment that we simply have no room for, and we will be able to hire additional personnel whom, as of right now, cannot literally fit into the tight quarters that I'll share with the corners of the Ohio State University campus where our crime lab is currently located. So in sum, we are doing much, much better than other jurisdictions that have notoriously been given some news. However, we do have a backlog, and this grant would definitely help with backlog.
Deputy Director, if you could just follow up with a report to council members on that, that would be great.
Will do.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, President Ginther. It gives me another opportunity to discuss the personnel in the lab and working through some of the challenges and newly innovations that I know that our staff are continuing trained upon so that we can address the backlog and stay on top of trends. And as you may be aware, the rise in things such as bath salts, they've had to adjust, and even in that challenge space that they're trying to keep up with the testing trends and analysis necessary. And so as we move forward to a new crime lab, the new personnel and some of those other equipment needs that we have to address some of the newer trends, we will have space to do so and do so in well fashion. We do have some of the best professionals in our crime lab working for us. So thank you. If again there are no other comments or questions, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Thank you. That's all I have by way of legislation. President Ginther, I have just two announcements, if you allow me the opportunity. I wanted to remind everyone that we will be holding a liquor permit objection hearing on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, and we will be accepting speaker slips until 5:30. I would certainly appreciate hearing from the community with any issues related to liquor establishments at that time, and look forward to many of the communities that have expressed concerns throughout the several meetings that I've attended over the last month, educating the university area, the Far East area, in terms of liquor objection process, and look forward to many other community members joining us that evening to learn about the process, not only from my office, the safety office, but as well the city attorney's office. And we look forward to receiving the comments and letters from community members related to liquor objections. And I want to thank everyone for allowing me the opportunity to come out and speak to safety committee meetings to share the necessity of not only the permit objection process, but also in terms of working with the businesses in our community who may or may not have the relationship with the other members of the community as we talk about cameras and objection needs and all of that together. But again, I want to thank all of the folks that invited me out over the last few weeks to talk about liquor objection, and to remind everyone on Wednesday of the hearing at 5 o'clock, again accepting speaker slips until 5:30. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Our next committee is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. Councilmember Paley chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. In Public Service and Transportation this evening, we have Ordinance 1835, 2012, to authorize the Finance and Management Director to enter into one contract for the purchase of 3 knuckle boom waste loader refuse trucks with the compressed natural gas option from Center City International Trucks, and to establish funding for the Division of Refuse Collection personnel to inspect the vehicles during the manufacturing, to waive competitive bidding provisions of Section 329 of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $555,131 within the Refuse Geo Bonds Fund, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I have 1851, 2012, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract with Complete General Construction Company to provide for the payment of contract construction and inspection services in connection with the Bridge Rehabilitation Annual Citywide Contract 2012 project, to amend the 2012 CIB, to authorize the transfer of funds and expenditures of $1,500,000 within the Streets and Highways Geo Bonds Fund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance represents another very important infrastructure investment in our city. The Bridge Rehabilitation Annual Citywide Contract 2012 project. This is a comprehensive bridge rehabilitation project that will take place throughout the city of Columbus. This is vital to the safety and health of our residents and visitors. The project will start in early October. The city currently owns 223 bridges. In addition, we are responsible for minor maintenance of 113 of the ODOT-owned bridges. It is also important to note that the city inspects 313 bridges on an annual basis. And finally, ODOT and Franklin County also inspect bridges within Columbus. There are many aspects of this rehabilitation project. They include any and all work necessary to maintain our city bridges. Our goal, as always, is to keep all of us safe. One of the ways to keep us safe is to make sure our bridges are safe. I want to thank Public Service Director Mark Kelsey and his staff for their leadership in this very important infrastructure project. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
Next, I have 1869, 2012, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into an agreement with and provide funding to the Director of the Ohio Department of Transportation for the purpose of studying the economic development opportunities associated with the construction of the High Street cap over the I-7071 freeway, to amend the 2012 CIB, to authorize the appropriation, transfer, and expenditure of funds within the Street Highway Improvement Fund, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
And next, I have 1878, 2012, to authorize the Director of Public Service on behalf of the Department of Development to enter into a reimbursement agreement with the Tower 10 LLC for the streetscape improvements associated with the renovation of the Levesque Tower, to waive the former consultant selection process provisions of the City Code, to amend the 2012 CIB, and to authorize the transfer and expenditure of funds within the Streets and Highway GO Bonds Fund, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
I have nothing else. Council President Ginther.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley. That's all for our agenda. Anything else to come before council this evening? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn, and we'll take non-agenda speakers momentarily.
So moved.
Clerk, call the roll.
Craig Klein, Miller Mills, Paley Tyson, President Ginther.
We stand in adjournment.